Now, topic is Misconceptions about Yoga by Dr. Fanishri.
Hari Om Tat Sat, Jai Guru Datta. There is a famous saying in English, the last straw broke the back of the camel. And for this session, I am the last speaker, and you are already fatigued with the experience of the other speakers, though they have given very valuable and important points. I hope all of us have picked up some good points from that. The second unpleasant thing that I am going to do now is to talk about the misconceptions of yoga. While all the other speakers are focusing on the benefits and the good that yoga is doing, I have been assigned the unpleasant job of talking bad of yoga. So you must pardon me if I'm hurting your sentiments at some point of time, and also excuse me for the time delay that is being carried on since morning. I hope you are all comfortable with English. I cannot take time with two languages, so I will continue with English alone. The first slide, please. See, by definition, yoga means, I don't have to tell you the meaning of yoga, it is a union of the individual self with the Supreme. When we interpret yoga, unfortunately, we forget the basic definition of yoga, and we start relating the effects of yoga only to the physical or the mental plane. And that causes all the issues of misunderstandings about yoga, overestimation about the effects of yoga on our body and mind, because we relate. If you do a particular asana, if you do a particular pranayama, we want the immediate physical relief. When we do not find the immediate physical relief, we attribute it to the ill aspect of yoga. So that is one very important what you call perception of yoga that we all need to understand. That is what is the next few moments we are going to talk. I hope, I don't know what I should give to my chairperson so that she can allow me to continue for some more time. Okay. The eightfold path of yoga, we all know, deals with the different stages. One is the control of our behavior, the disciplines, do's and do nots that we should practice. Without practicing the do's and do nots, if you start doing pranayama or you will not get the full benefit of yoga. And therefore, the result depends upon how effectively we are following all the principles that are being addressed or that have been told in yoga. So the eightfold path includes, if you are not able to do proper Padmasana and you are doing pranayama, the effect of pranayama would be minus the asana, minus the disciplines of yoga, minus the behavioral aspects that are very important. If you constantly think ill of others and at the same time you want to do yoga and see the yoga gives you maximum benefit, obviously it would not give. So all these 8 Ashtanga, the 8 principles that have been laid out in the practice of yoga have their own say in giving the benefit or the result related to yoga. That is the conclusion for the first slide. The next slide, please. Now, yoga is panacea. Start yoga, stop medicine. Many of the people I come across, they come to the hospital saying, sir, I have so and so problem. I have started developing diabetes. My blood sugars are high. I have started doing pranayama. I am not using any medicine. And he gives a big smile to me. I say, my dear sir, please do your pranayama. Please take the medicines also. Because the time you have started yoga, it is far advanced. The benefit that you are going to get through yoga and control of diabetes through yoga, you are not going to achieve the target with pranayama alone. So you need to understand at what level yoga is introduced and what is the effect it can produce at the time yoga has been introduced to you. Keeping in mind the different levels of help that yoga does to us. We are talking only about the physical. We are understanding it only at the physical plane. That is the first one of the foremost misconceptions that we have about yoga. The other one is yoga does not have any side effects at all. See, most of the time, for a Western mind and for most Indians also, yoga means hatha yoga. If a person with backache, a chronic disc prolapse, starts doing asanas which he is not supposed to do, Or if a person who is having knee joint arthritis starts doing Padmasana or other asanas where the knee is folded to a large extent, suddenly, all of a sudden, obviously he is going to worsen his problem. So yoga does not have side effects. If you are, as Kriya Yoga teachers, propagating that yoga will cure all diseases, yoga is going to bring relief to any person in whatever state he is. You must do Padmasana if you are having a knee joint problem or your knee joint has been operated. Then you are landing him in soup, you are landing yourself also in soup. So please be careful. Yoga may have side effects if it is not taken in the right way. So the appropriate time, appropriate asana, appropriate breathing pattern, appropriate food habits, appropriate behavioral patterns, all are essential components. Without any of them, the benefit would not be complete. It may be detrimental also. It may be wrong. If you do it in the wrong way, it can produce wrong. Because some people start doing bandhas, even without having proper experience about control over the length of breathing itself. So if the technique you adopt, the durations you adopt, the numbers you do are not appropriately, and the diet you take is not appropriate, or the timing of yoga, some people start doing yoga after eating food, which may not be a wise practice. So it may produce side effects if it is not done. So that is a misconception. Yoga may have side effects if it is not done in the right way. Yoga is very simple. It comprises of a few poses and breathing patterns. This is one of the very common misconceptions that we have. Yoga for many people means a simple asanas. If you cannot do asanas, you cannot do yoga. No, sir. There are a lot more things in yoga. As we are all aware, we have been learning Kriya Yoga. There are so many manasika kriyas, so many different types of pranayamas, so many behavioral observation techniques that are there. They all complex phenomena, the chakra meditation system, the soham breathing, so many other things are there in yoga, which yoga in effect is a holistic approach to better living. It is a holistic approach. It is not about one aspect of life, but it is a totality from womb till the tomb, how a person should lead his life. So yoga is complicated and not suited for everyone. That is another misconception. Many people think, what yoga for me, I cannot sit properly. No, we need not feel dejected. Yoga can start in any person at any point of time. Whatever little exercises you can do, whatever little asanas you can do, whatever little breathing techniques, we all breathe. As long as you breathe, you can do yoga. So long as you breathe, you can do yoga. Please give a big round of applause. This is not for me. This applause is for Appaji. You know why? In Datta Kriya Yoga, the center of practice is pranayama. Pranayama is one thing that is going to stay with us all our life. He has not said, if you cannot do asana, please don't come to Datta Kriya Yoga. He didn't say that. If you don't do pranayama, please don't come to Kriya Yoga class, he will say. So pranayama being the center of our Datta Kriya Yoga theme, we should all understand that everybody is eligible. 1 hour who breathes on this earth is eligible to do yoga. It is suitable for everyone. Okay? So that is another misconception. Please remember, another misconception is yoga is a religious propaganda. It is a cult. Yoga does not talk about any religion. It does not talk about any God. It talks about your own self within you, which is for you it is you, for me it is me. It is not centered around Dattatreya. No, it is centered about you. You see the world because you live. You breathe because you are there, you are the Atman. It talks about the supreme nature, the divine nature that is lurking within you. So it does not have anything to do with any religion at all. It is not a religious cult. It is not a propaganda of any religion. So Swamiji in the initial days, when he suggested practice of Kriya Yoga, he would say, no vermilion also on the forehead. You come without a vermilion on the forehead and you sit in the class. It belongs to everyone on this globe. Everyone. So it is not a religious cult. All types of yoga are one and the same. You can just see or read and learn about them. There are subtle differences between different practices of yoga. There are different branches. Though the goal of all yoga is the same, the paths are different. Bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, Raja yoga. There are different paths. The ultimate goal is the same. But we are all following a particular path. Being in a particular path, we cannot assess the merits or the demerits of another path. So do not compare. Follow what path has been told to you by your guru vehemently, strictly. Follow it in a religious manner. I use the word religion here, not religion. Religious manner means more with faith and devotion. Faith and devotion are very important. Unless we have bhakti and shraddha, we cannot achieve anything. Bhakti and shraddha does not necessarily mean to a god or anything. It necessarily means your commitment to yoga. Yoga worsens medical problems. Of course, I have already told you, if you do it in the wrong way, it is going to worsen your medical problems. You have to have a proper justification of when to use it, how to use it, and in what way you can accommodate yoga into your lifestyle. Next slide. We are spending billions of dollars these days designing in ergonomics. You want your car chair, this chair of your car to be beautifully designed so that it doesn't cause any back pain to you. You want your computer seat to be so nicely designed so it doesn't bring about a back pain or your hands are proper, your vision is not disturbed. But we are not spending time to realize that it is basically training our body to adapt proper postures, which yoga has already taught us since ages. If you have had the habit of inculcating the proper asanas and proper practices of vyayamas and exercises, keeping your ligaments supple, your muscles supple, your bones healthy, probably these problems would not have arisen. Initially, I was given the topic of speaking on management of stress. So some principles of management have already crept into these slides also. Yoga is obviously a cheaper alternative to putting billions of dollars on ergonomics. If you have, what you talk of ergonomics of other things, you have to design the ergonomics of your own body. That is what yoga talks about. Next slide. Now, we must understand that yoga helps each and every individual in the disease states. But there is a different level at which it can help. If the problem is only at the psychic level, yogic techniques can help to completely recover and curability is possible. When the problem is only at the psychic level, with the help of certain kriya techniques, you can reverse them and complete recovery is possible. But when the problem enters into the psychosomatic zone because of the mind issues, for example, if a person is having high blood pressure, pranayama techniques may help to reduce his blood pressure. But to keep it controlled, he has to keep doing pranayamas. If you stop doing it, it will recur. You must be careful. So what many people think, this is where the misconceptions start arising about yoga. I was having blood pressure, I started doing pranayama, it came into control, then I stopped doing pranayama, again it started coming up. Then I thought it is easy to pop a pill rather than to do pranayama. It is easier for a person to take a pill rather than doing pranayama, isn't it? So, we must understand that a continuity is essential for the benefit of yoga to be long lasting on us. As I already mentioned, it is a modification, a betterment, it's a holistic approach to the living. It is not only focused about disease states alone. It is well-being of the individual in toto, from birth till the death. So, any person in any stage is always eligible to do some form of yoga at least. The third one, next slide please. The third one is when the disease has already got established in the body. It is called a somatic stage of the disease. In that stage, the target organ is affected, where in such a stage, yoga alone may not be sufficient to bring about complete relief. You may need the help of a medication to control your symptoms. This is where some of us falter. We think at this stage, without medicine, we will be able to handle yoga. You have a strong liking for yoga or maybe dislike for medicine, whatever be the reason. You don't want to pay the doctor's bills, fine. Whatever be the reason, stick to yoga, stick to your medicine also. Then it is going to help. It may help to reduce the dose of medicine, certainly. So that is where you have to understand where you have to incorporate. The fourth stage is in the organic state, when the disease has established and it has produced some complications already. It has already produced some complications. In such a state, yoga helps to reduce the suffering, certainly helps to reduce the tolerability to the disease. It helps to reduce the rate of progression of the disease. So that is the level in which yoga is going to help us. Next slide, please. Yeah, there are certain variations, I think. Yoga versus physical exercise. This table is already available in your Datta Kriya Yoga book, so I will not go through it in detail. Only few points I will try to highlight. The nature of yoga, it is varied and specific, and it is static in nature. Muscular exercises are vigorous and physical and dynamic in nature. The energy expenditure in yoga is minimum. They do not cause fatigue. They bring about feeling of freshness, whereas physical exercise lead to discomfort, bodily discomfort, and consume a lot of energy. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In the physical development, yoga emphasizes on the vital organs, whereas physical exercises emphasize on the muscular development. Then physical exercise emphasizes on the muscle strength and more on the flexibility of the spine. Here also this flexibility of the spine and strength of the spine is emphasized in yoga. Yoga contributes to basic fitness factors required for common man, whereas physical exercise contribute to better physical fitness factors like stamina, speed, strength, and improve cardiovascular efficiency. But vigorous nature of physical exercises is not suitable for everybody. Whereas yogic techniques, some form of techniques is there for each individual of different categories. Next slide. And emotional development, for example, practices like asanas and pranayamas release the tensions of the body. Use of big muscle activity also reduces muscular tensions in physical exercise, and physical exercise is also a way to pent up emotions. Whereas even the emotional development wise, yoga is also suited to the peace of mind, and control of autonomic functions is also possible through yoga. Next slide, please. The carryover value is very important. With yoga, the carryover value is it is useful throughout the life, even in old age, without limitations. It maintains agility, makes man more introspective, whereas physical exercise, it may be difficult in advanced age, may lead to obesity if stopped. If you stop physical exercise, you may develop obesity and other related complications. And physical exercise make a man more extrovert. So that is where we have to compare how physical exercise should be incorporated, why yoga should be incorporated. Yoga has its own standpoint and own benefits, but we have to be cautious about interpreting the effects of yoga and making false propaganda about yoga. So you have to be genuine in your commitment towards yoga and propagating about the efforts of yoga. Thank you. Jai Guru Datta. Gopal Krishna sir, you are asking me to stop before my time is over. This is unfair.